Hey everyone, this is Derek here and welcome to another video where today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be looking at damage. Damage you can do in PUBG and PUBG Mobile, as well as how much damage you can take before you're knocked out or are killed by an enemy. So damage in PUBG Mobile is actually a lot more complicated than you probably realize. When I started learning about this game, I thought there was a headshot, a body shot, and that was kind of it. Well, damage is actually split way more realistically into head, neck, clavicles, upper chest, lower chest, stomach, pelvis, upper limb, lower limb, and hand or foot. And there's a different damage modifier for each one of these body parts. So it's very realistic. And that's why sometimes when you're shooting somebody, especially if you're shooting them in the lower leg, for example, with a micro Uzi, it might take a ton of rounds to knock out the person. And you're like, what the heck? Why is this person not dying? Well, it actually really depends on where you hit them. So to help us on this journey is a very, very helpful website called Battlegrounds.party. I'll link it below. And because PUBG Mobile doesn't put out this information and PUBG doesn't put it out very often, this is actually data that's been gathered from a ton of users. So although it may not be perfectly accurate, it's very, very, very close. So you can see here that all the different weapons are listed. The different armor is listed at the top, and we'll just go through the website. I'll talk about how to use it, and I will be using this website as a reference in future videos where, for example, you're looting a warehouse and luck is on your side, and right next to each other are a Car 98, a Mini 14, and an SKS. Which one do you pick up? And obviously it comes down to personal preference, comes down to semi-automatic versus bolt action. But if you're just looking at it from a damage standpoint or damage per second standpoint, which one's the best? Well, that's something that we can answer using sites like this in future videos. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Those will be coming soon if there's demand for them. And without further ado, let's get into this website and I'll show you how it works. So you can see here all the different body parts. Hopefully you can follow along with my little mouse cursor here. And we're going to be looking at the AKM, which is a pretty standard weapon. It's a 7.62 weapon, so it does quite a bit of damage. It does more base damage. You can see the base damage down here is 49, and you can compare that. That's just a very, very rough indicator. So there are different modifiers based on what weapon you have to what type of weapon. We'll get into that later. But basically, this is the base damage of every gun. So, you can say, all right, let's start out with an AKM. Let's say you found that right away and you're fighting somebody who has no armor yet because it's the beginning of the game. Well, you start out with 100 health. So this damage is how much damage out of 100 health is being done to you. So you can see an AKM with no armor would do 115.1 damage to a head, which means that you will one shot if you headshot with an AKM and they have no helmet on. The helmet protects this, the head and the neck. You can see it down here. So this is what the helmet protects, these two parts. And then the vest protects these 5 parts, everything from the clavicles all the way to the pelvis. Upper limb, lower limb, and hand and foot are not modified by armor. However, the base damage is pretty low on them, so there's nothing you can do whether you have level 3 or level 0. There's nothing you can do to impact this damage. However, like I said, it's a lot lower than pretty much everywhere else, which is realistic. And that is why, you don't have to worry about it as much. So let's say you've got an AKM. You can also go here. You can see damage, hits to kill. So hits to kill is how many times you have to hit somebody in the same spot. And if you want to add in a level 1 helmet and a level 1 vest, you can actually click on those right here. So let's go ahead. We'll add level 1, level 1. You can see how that updated the data. You can see now that it's going to take 2 shots to the head or the neck to knock this person out or to kill them. So yeah, it's just a really cool tool to play around with. So it would take 8 shots of the AKM. So let's go down to a pistol. Let's pretend that the first thing you find is the P92, which is a pretty weak 9mm pistol. It's a semi-automatic, obviously. And if somebody has level 1 helmet, level 1 vest, it's going to take quite a few shots to knock them out or kill them. you can see that you would need 3 headshots with a pistol. So if you're playing pistols only arcade mode and somebody finds level 2 armor, you can see how that would impact that. Not very much, actually. And if you go to level 3 armor, you can see that that does increase the number of times you need to hit. So hits to kill is that. Damage is out of 100. So, you know, if you hit somebody in the upper limb, the upper arm here, it's going to do 21 damage. So that means 21 damage out of 100, so roughly a fifth of your health. And if you want a better explanation on any of this stuff, because it does go pretty far into depth, and I don't want this video to drag on for like 30 minutes, then definitely just let me know in the comments below and I can accommodate that with a future video. So this video is pretty much just to show you what this website's all about. It's free to use and it's super, super useful if you're curious about learning more about the game and how each weapon performs. So weapon damage also varies based on distance, because of course it does. And it makes sense because bullets lose velocity as they travel further and they'll have less impact force when they hit something further away. So let's say you've got that pistol again and you're shooting somebody 300 meters away. I don't even know. That's very difficult to do. But you can see here how the damage falls off rather rapidly. So we'll go down to roughly 300 meters. And you can see now that that shot that would have done 21 damage almost only does 13. And let's say, you know, you have a level 1 helmet, level 1 vest, it would do 17 damage if you hit him right in the heart. But if you were closer to him, it would do almost 27. So this tool is super useful for, you know, say you've got a Kar 98 and somebody happens to be super close range, you know, say you're playing the new war mode and somebody has level 1 helmet, level 1 vest, and you're fighting them with a Kar 98. It's going to take 2 shots in the chest to kill them. However, what if they're 500 meters away? Let's say you found an 8 times right away from one of those airdrops, but you're still using the Kar 98. Well, it's still going to take 2 times to kill them. So you can see the Kar 98 doesn't fall off as much with distance as perhaps the pistol does, which makes sense. Also, super interesting to note, the jumping punch is much more powerful than the punch. So if you see people, and this is in melee only, or if you just see people jumping and then punching, that's why they're doing it. They're not only doing it to have a better chance of headshotting you, the jumping punch is more powerful. So it's actually more than double the power of a normal punch. So something to keep in mind. And the pan is the best because it is the pan. It's also the best because it has a much higher base damage than the crowbar, machete, or sickle. So if you're playing melee only, get a pan because 1, it's cool. 2, you can cook food on it. And 3, it does more damage. So that's another fun thing to talk about. Time to kill, I'm not going to go into that much here. This is based on DPS of the weapon. So we'll talk about that more in a future video. But basically, DPS depends on the fire rate of the weapon as well as how much damage it's doing. And, you know, it's just honestly another video because otherwise it's going to get too long. So you can see you have all the different weapons currently in the game here. We even have the SLR, which isn't currently out on the global version, but it came out with the 0.7.1 update in China. So you've got all these cool weapons to play around with. And like I said, this is damage done. You have 100 health. It doesn't matter what armor you have on. It doesn't matter how many medkits you have or how boosted you are. You still only have 100 health. So like I said before, when you have 60 damage, that means that you're going to be left, assuming you're starting out at full health. If you get shot in the neck with an AKM with a level 1 helmet, you're going to have 40, a little bit less than 40 health left after you get hit. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll touch quickly on location data. So hit area damage, this is the damage modifier for each body part. You can see that chest shots, or shots in the very important internal organs there, your lungs, your heart, are weighted the highest. Headshots are weighted at 100. And then you can see it falls off as you go into the extremities. And then there's also a modifier for what you're actually attacking with. So if we take a look at melee, for example, say you're using a pan, if you hit somebody in the head, that's a 150% damage modifier. So you don't have to really worry about this. This is just for geeks and, for people like me who are really curious about the behind the curtain, so to speak. But this actually factors in all that. So like when you look at 49 base damage and then you look at, it'll actually do 37.7, it's actually doing this calculation already. So We were looking at melee there, 150. What if we're looking at a sniper rifle though? Sniper rifles do 250 to the head. So because they're sniper rifles, they have a higher damage modifier for headshots. So really cool to figure that out. And like I said, it gets complicated. Basically damage. So if we go back here real quick, go to AKM, and we look at that 37.7 if you're wearing a level 1 vest, one shot from a very close distance. Damage is basically the weapon damage times the hit area multiplier times the weapon class multiplier times the armor class. So that is complicated, but it's a formula that you don't have to worry about because all you have to do is select what sort of armor you got, what sort of weapon you have, what the distance is roughly, and that's all you have to worry about. And here it is, the damage table. I'll just scroll down here. You can see it's in nice little chart form, and it is color coordinated based on the damage, which is cool. This is actually color coordinated by how many hits it's going to take to kill somebody. So that's what the different colors mean. So, but yeah, it's really neat. It's a really, really neat website. I'm glad that's a free resource. Damage per shotgun pellet. This gets super, super confusing, but basically shotguns shoot multiple pellets, and each pellet does a different amount of damage. So if you do damage, if you have this unchecked, this is assuming that every shotgun pellet, because they spread out, and the further you are away from the person, the more they spread. So if you're playing a shotguns only match in arcade mode and you're shooting somebody across a field with the S12K, you get the S12K with a sight and you're shooting at somebody, say, you can see it actually falls off super fast because shotguns are not good at long range. But let's say they're 100 meters roughly away. You can see that this is assuming you'd hit with every shotgun pellet, which is basically impossible because you got a dispersion pattern and you're not going to hit them with everyone. But if you go to damage per shotgun pellet, now you can see that there are 9 pellets and that each one would do 9.3 damage that hit from that range. But what if we're closer? Now each one's doing a lot more damage, and you have a much better chance of landing multiple hits. So this is why shotguns at close range are so deadly. This is somebody, let's say they got level 2 armor. Let's say you have a double barrel and you're going up against somebody with level 3 armor even. Level 3 armor, full level 3 at a distance of very close. You hit them with everything in the upper chest or the head, they're dead. That's full level 3. One blast from a shotgun will kill them. So that is how powerful shotguns are, assuming you land all the pellets. Otherwise, you're doing 12 damage per pellet. So if you hit them with 4 pellets, you're going to be doing 48 damage, roughly half their HP. So just a really neat way of looking at the game. And like I said, before I knew about this site, I had no clue that damage was so interesting, in that it's realistic, in that it's just way more in depth than I ever thought. I assumed body shot, headshot were good, and that is not the case. So next time you're thinking about shooting somebody in the hand, just know that the damage modifier there is a lot lower, so it's going to take a ton more shots. So if you're bursting somebody down in the legs with a micro Uzi, for example, we'll do one more fun example here. Let's pretend it's the beginning of the game and you are bursting them down. Let's say it's one of those war modes where it is a SMG war mode and you've got a micro Uzi. If you're shooting them down in the legs, you have to get them 6 or 7 times to knock them out, or 11 times if you're shooting them in the foot. So yeah, just pretty crazy to think about, and it's just cool how intuitive this is. It might not, it might be overwhelming at first, but hopefully this video helped you out in better understanding how to use this to your benefit. So if you want to see more videos on damage in PUBG Mobile or anything that I just talked about, definitely let me know and I can go into further depth, because I'm kind of a geek about this stuff and I enjoy talking about it. And if this video helped you out, definitely give it a thumbs up to help the channel grow, and consider subscribing if you haven't already for tons more PUBG Mobile content. So my name is Derek G. I hope to see you on the battlefield soon. Thanks for watching.